Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every Monday night from TheRinger.com is Kevin O'Connor, a.k.a. Kevin O'Bomber, Kevin O'Concert, Kevin O'Camera, Kevin O'Climber, Kevin O'Conflict, Kevin O'Candyland, a.k.a. Kevin O'Blizzarian, Kevin O'Sphere, Kevin!
Verno! Got throwing in a Kevin O. Mountjoy in there because I saw Mountjoy at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles on Sunday night. It's a beautiful night in L.A., so that's why I'm rocking the shirt today. Mountjoy.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Did they play with anybody else, or were they alone?
Local natives opened for them. The local natives pretty good. Caught the end of their set. Didn't see the whole thing. But Mountjoy's was excellent. Mountjoy was great. You know, good crowd in the back. You know, up front, you get a lot of like Hollywood Bowl season ticket holders. A little bit of an older crowd in the front. That seems typical for a lot of Hollywood Bowl shows. But it was rocking, you know, behind there.
Great. Well, we have a music question coming up here in a little bit. Let me start first with, we always try to hit any kind of newsy things. There's not been many newsy things that have taken place. The only ones that we can react to that matter greatly are
Matt Ryan re-signing with the Pelicans?
The video of Luka at the Dragic thing. Well, first you had the self-alley-oop by Nikola Jokic, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, wow.
But the reaction of people to seeing Luka Doncic did not look to be in the best shape of his life. I had recently seen one of these polls that were done, I guess one of these GM polls, where Luka Doncic was the favorite to win MVP next year, according to talent evaluators around the league. And I think the expectation was, hey, got a little taste of it, but came up short by going to the NBA Finals. Maybe this will be the turning point. Luka comes back. You know, he's going to go run the mountains of Europe, and then he's going to come back, and then he's going to be in the best shape of his life. And watch out, because the league's going to get set on fire. We saw him last year come to the cusp of winning an MVP possibly, and that this could be the year. This could be in the prime. He was right there, you know, at the precipice of being able to win a championship, though falling short. And so the best of Luka Doncic is not only yet to come, but it is about to come very quickly. And then people saw the video of him over the weekend like, maybe not the year that he comes back in the best shape of his life. He looked big, Kev.
Yeah, he looked big in the videos of him on the court, but there was a video of him posted from a restaurant, and he looked like his typical self. So it's very possible.
Camera trick?
Yeah, but I mean, it's very possible the puffy jerseys made him look bigger on the court than he actually is. But, you know, nonetheless, it would have been nice to see him look even leaner in the video of him in the restaurant, more chiseled.
We just keep waiting for this will happen at one point. There's going to come a point where Luka Doncic comes back in the best shape of his career. That is going to happen. And it typically happens.
Yeah. Or maybe not. It might not, but you hope it does.
It will. But
he's 25 years old now. You hope it happens in the next 2 or 3 years.
I don't think we're going to look up in a month at training camp and we're going, wow, this guy is noticeably different than he has looked in the past. So that's one thing. The other thing is we have talked a lot, I think, more about high school athletes and prospective prospects on this show over the course of the last year than we have in the first 7-8 years of doing this podcast combined, because we know what's on the horizon, and these guys have got a lot of juice. They've got they got the ability to be franchise-changing players in many people's estimations, and we've seen them since the time they were 15 and 16. Just recently on a podcast, you mentioned A.J. DeBansta. We're still a little a ways away from him, but Cooper Flagg is the next one on the horizon, and we are going to get to see him playing at Duke next year. Most people have him as the number one player in the mock draft. I saw him in person at 16 and talked to you on this show after I saw him in an EYBL event. And I said, that is the best 16-year-old basketball player I've ever seen in person in my life. This guy is everything I could have imagined and more. So I've been all in on Cooper Flagg for a long time now. I saw him play with his main team in an event, I guess what would have been between his sophomore and junior years of high school. We're going to see him on a big stage at Duke next year. And then the story came out this morning that New Balance has signed him to a big shoe deal. And man, how times have changed and how rapidly they are changing. Cooper Flagg's already got a shoe deal, and we're about to see him in his freshman year at Duke. But what's even crazier is I saw the first story and I was like, wow, great investment.
It really is. I mean,
I know.
What white guy shoe brand?
I know. First Jack Harlow, and now they've actually
Cooper
done
Flagg.
really good. You know, they have done, New Balance has done really well. They've gotten, obviously, they got Ohtani. They got Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe.
Yeah,
who's on the horizon.
Yeah.
Who's that's a cool one to have.
Was Kawhi their first big one? Was Kawhi kind of the gateway to all these great athletes?
I think so. Coco Gauff, the tennis player,
awesome.
phenom. She's New Balance. They released her shoes. So
I mean,
New Balance
has
really
good
been
shoes,
on the come up.
New Balance is good. I like New Balance. I don't currently have a pair, but I've had a pair in the past, and they're comfortable. They're good. They work for me. So maybe I'll check out the Cooper Flagg ones when those come out. Maybe I will. Who knows?
I will say that getting these guys, locking him in. This is a real bet. A bet my buddy Sonny Vaccaro made over and over again, obviously going all the way back to Jordan, but whether it was Kobe Bryant or it was Tracy McGrady, or we know with LeBron James and the big battle that was had with Adidas and Nike over him, that like, if you can lock these guys in, first of all, and what I really think is it's the awareness of what Flagg is going to be, what people that have to go into, there's somebody that is going to have to get on a call with stockholders and explain why they are doing this.
Yeah.
And they will feel fine about it, right? I mean,
and by the way, I mean, they're doing a good job already promoting him. Like the video that they released was just really well done. Just him in a driveway taking shots.
Right. Well, and
I thought it was really cool.
He's got a chance to be, obviously he's got to deliver at Duke, but I think you and I are on the same page. There ain't no way he's not going to deliver. I mean, he's going to be
a really good player.
Sure thing. Yeah. He really is. As sure as you can get in this. He's as sure as you can get. Yeah.
Good player. At a minimum. Good player. At a minimum. Like, he'll be a good player.
I think at a minimum, great player.
I
really view him
when I say good player, I mean, at a minimum, he'll be like top 30 or 40 in the league. But at peak, he could be one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league pretty safely.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, defensively, I mean, also at a minimum, I think at a minimum, all defensive player. It's just really a matter of what level does he reach offensively. And the trajectory that he's on suggests that he could be a mega star in the league, a two-way, versatile guy that can do absolutely everything on the floor. So I'm stoked to watch him at Duke, man. This next year with college basketball, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than this past year. It's going to feel more like the Wemby year in terms of, I think, hype and excitement in terms of the potential number 1 prospects.
This is by far the best college basketball year I guess the Zion year, because Zion it was him and RJ both at the same place. John Morant was at Murray State. And I mean, that was a great, great year. But really, we got to go back to that. And because after that, we had that swoon of guys that just were not playing American college basketball. They were either going overseas or they were playing in the G League Ignite or they were going to overtime elite. And this even, goes up to 2 years ago, where you had Scoot Henderson, who we hadn't seen. You had the Thompson twins, who we hadn't seen playing college basketball. Before that, we had LaMelo. I mean, there was a assembly line of great prospects that weren't playing American college basketball. But you look up and down mock drafts now, they're all playing American college basketball outside of kids that might be coming from overseas because the Ignite folded, and now you can make more money playing American college basketball in many cases than you can playing elsewhere. And that was always the trick. You could make money if you played in the Ignite. You could play money if you played overseas. You could make money if you played for Overtime Elite. Well, now I mean, there's no numbers on it, but I mean, Cooper Flagg is going to make an absolute fortune playing at Duke next year. I promise you that. I mean, there's guys already making money playing high school basketball. So
times have changed.
Yeah, but it's great for a college basketball fan. It's great because we're going to get to at least see a lot of these great talents at least 1 year. All right, speaking of great talents, well, it might not be great talents, but we're going to start with our mailbag questions, and I'm going to give you a couple. This one came to me on Instagram, actually, from a card collector. So this would be good for you, Kevin. I know you're not a card collector, but the question remains the same. So this came from Tommy.
I have some that I've taken big losses on.
All right.
So, because the market went down a lot, but hopefully it goes back up.
Well, I told you not to buy those Killian Hayes.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Appreciate the advice.
Tommy is a card collector. And he said, most people believe, and I think this stands for inside and outside of the card collecting hobby. Most people believe in Shepard and Castle, who were the 3rd and 4th picks in the draft. Of the other 3 in the top 5, Ricochet, Sarr, Holland, who would you bank on?
Huh. That's a good question.
Because these are guys that want to, this is somebody that likes to collect stuff. And I was like, I as a collector myself, I agree with him completely. You will search out for the Shepards. You will search out for the Castles. And you feel pretty good about those. But
sure.
Of the other 3 in the top 5, if I just gave you $500 to spend on cards for one of them.
I think I would lean towards Alex Sarr. I just think with Sarr, I had him ranked the highest of those 3 guys. So I think with Sarr, his defensive versatility still has great appeal. The flashes of offensive upside. He's in a situation that's kind of a clean slate. Whereas with Atlanta, Ricochet may not have the ceiling. Ricochet may be a safer bet, but Sarr likely has a higher ceiling. So I'd be wanting for some buy lows, going for the guy that's a bigger bet. So I think along those lines, you could also make a strong argument for Ron Holland with his high work ethic, his motor, the try-hard attitude. But the Detroit situation is sort of like Atlanta in the sense that you have Cade there. You have Trey in Atlanta right now. So I just wonder if the ceiling is there for either of those guys from a collector standpoint as much as Alex Sarr is with the Wizards.
I think I lean Holland partly because if that Detroit team becomes fun, if they could exceed expectation, because they've got more talent, certainly, than Washington.
For sure.
And Atlanta, who knows, on the Ricochet and how he's going to kind of fit in. I think I'd go Holland. I don't feel great about any of them. I mean, but
honestly, I'd rather be wanting to buy cards for Dillingham with the Wolves or Edey with the Grizzlies, Klingon with the Blazers. I'd rather.
I think Holland because here's what I say. Number one, an American-born player is an easier bet for collectors, right?
Fair.
You have to be so amazing if you are because nobody has any awareness of you ever. No one knows anything about Sarr or Ricochet in the States. They just don't. Okay. Second thing is, so many times, especially in their rookie years, you're buying and then you're trying to flip when they get super hot. It can be a highlight deal, right? There's no question that was what fueled a lot of the Morant and Zion stuff, especially their rookie years. It's like you just could not avoid them. They were just everything they did was a highlight. And it's Holland probably has the chance to have some kind of ridiculous highlight more so than the others, right? Isn't that fair to say? It's much more likely that Ron Holland crushes someone on some amazing dunk that just becomes mega viral than the other two. And,
for sure.
And sometimes that's all that matters.
maybe Sarr has like a series of, rotations on defense and a highlight block, but like that's not going to go as viral as monster dunks.
And that's what matters now.
And Sarr doesn't have a lot of those.
And that's what matters now in terms of getting buzz. And so if I'm doing buzz, I guess I just have to go Holland because I'm thinking like look, think about this. You saw the Caleb Williams one, right? Where he rolls around for 10 seconds and then he hits Roma Dunze down the sideline, whatever. Nobody even knows what the hell Caleb Williams did the rest of that game. Nobody even cares what Caleb Williams did the rest of that game. But they saw that. I saw that 1,000 times on every social media platform for good reason. The play was freaking awesome. It's like you just don't see guys rolling out, throwing across their body.
Mahomes-esque, Rodgers-esque.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter what he did the rest of the game. That's the one. As soon as you saw that clip, you're like, oh my God, what kind of highlight is this? So I guess I'd go. And Sarr was just so terrible at Summer League. I can't get over it.
I know.
And Reese Shea just blah. You got me off of him early. So this is if he ends up being awesome, it's all your fault.
As soon as Gavoni came on my pod and was saying, well, he sits and he's in the airplane and middle seats and he shoots a lot, so he should be good as soon as
I know, that was tough. All right, one other I got on Instagram, Marcus. I live overseas. Ha ha ha. But he did say overseas. I live overseas. Me and my friends want to do a trip to the States and go to an NBA game next season. None of us have been to one. Anything's on the table. Where would you go?
New York for a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. And the reason why is because that's number one on my list as well, because I've only been to a Knicks game when the Knicks sucked. And even though the Knicks were terrible at the time, the crowd was still better than it is in some cities when the teams are good. For example, I was in Houston for a game where James Harden, this was back in 2017, where Harden had 48 points, 17 rebounds, 14 assists, one of those monster games. And the crowd was dead.
You were buck naked by the end of it.
I was just lathered up, but the crowd was dead. Maybe because they were freaked out by me. But when the Knicks were bad, the energy is just, you can feel it. There's a heartbeat inside of the building. So I would go to a Knicks game. That's at the top of my list. I would go to
plus it'd be in New York City.
Yeah, New York City as well. That's part of the draw as well. But if you're strictly about basketball, to me, I think the Knicks energy is going to be awesome this year with that team, man. The Nova Knicks, it's going to be a great roster. I'd want to go to a good, high-profile national TV Knicks game.
I think I agree with you. The only other one that jumped at the top of my mind, and this is more me because I have been to other arenas rather than what I would encourage someone from overseas. But the first game I looked for was, when do they play the Clippers? Just because if that place is truly what it appears to be versus all the videos, I don't care about the Clippers.
Sure.
But that arena looks like the ninth wonder of the world.
I'm super excited to go there. I am.
I've been to, obviously I'm a Cowboys fan, but when I went to that stadium for the first time, I was like, I've never been to anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
This is, and it's been open for a long time now, but you hear all the hype and then you go and you're like, holy crap, this place is amazing. I've never seen anything I've never been at a sporting event like this with that Jumbotron, with that. And so but if you've never been to a game, you need to go to a barn like Madison Square Garden and get the vibes like that. For me, I would want to go to the new arena just to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be unlike anything we've ever seen in basketball.
Maybe that's the move. Maybe the move is to do a long weekend in Los Angeles and go to a Lakers game and a Clippers game. Find a weekend where both teams play regardless of the opponent, maybe you seek something out where it's a great opponent and you go to both arenas. Maybe that's the move.
And you stay with Kevin. I'll give him your address.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, feel free.
All right. Last one, and this is not a mailbag question. This is a question I had with my friends the other night, and this was, I wanted to pose it to you. You brought up a band.
You have friends?
You love at the very beginning. I do. Not many, but some. We were having a discussion on a text thread about, did you see this news about Oasis getting back together?
Yeah.
Okay. So my buddies love Oasis. They were big when we were younger. And one of them said, one of my great regrets was not seeing Oasis. He said, the ones I truly regret were Oasis and Prince. And he said, and then he asked us, what are your regrets?
That's a good one. Tom Petty for me. Tom Petty. Not seeing
one
Tom
One
Petty.
of my buddies said Tom Petty and Prince. And another one said Nirvana. Was a big Nirvana fan and mentioned them. I said Amy Winehouse, who I loved, and I loved that Back to Black album so much. And obviously,
how about Aerosmith? Have you seen them?
I never saw them.
I never saw Aerosmith. Aerosmith was my dad's favorite band, like in his younger years. Like he saw Aerosmith before their first album released when they were just doing colleges in Boston. He saw them like 10 times, 20 times before they released their first album. But for some reason, him and I never saw Aerosmith live. Timing just never worked out. That's one of my regrets too.
Another one that now are they ever? Can he not sing anymore?
Steven Tyler, like apparently, like they've retired from touring. Maybe they have a comeback some number of years from now, but they're old as hell, man. Like, this really might be it.
Well, and I have one that's old guy too, which this may surprise you. I love Paul Simon.
Oh yeah,
and I went and looked, and like evidently, I guess recording his last album or part of it, his hearing like left him, and so he can never.
Wow.
He's not like he never does anything anyway. He never does anything like it. You don't meet a lot of people that I mean, unless you went years and years ago, like on the Graceland tour or something like that. Like, but he does not play live a lot, and so I would have really liked to have seen him because I like his music a lot, and I obviously, I mean, I'll never get to see him. So,
who along those lines, who is the oldest artist you saw in concert? Because for me, it was B.B. King. I saw B.B. King with my dad, probably late 2000s, early 2010s, maybe. And B.B. King, like he could still play guitar. Talked a lot during the concert. Obviously, it's like taking it a little easy, but he was great. And I also saw Buddy Guy, another amazing guitarist from the 1960s, blues guitarist. I saw him, and he walked down like the, between the aisles of our section, and he played guitar like behind his head, like right next to the row me and my dad were seated in, and it was pretty awesome. That was a kind of a cool formative concert memory when I was a kid.
Oldest.
Buddy Guy is still going, by the way. 88 years old right now, still playing. 88.
I mean, this is probably now, I don't know how many years ago, 6 or 7, maybe 8 now. But I don't know how old he is now, but I saw Bob Dylan.
Oh, wow. Bob Dylan's still touring, too.
I mean, he was old when I saw him.
He's still old now. He's 83.
So 83. I probably saw him when he was like 75 or 76, I guess, something like that.
Wow.
I saw him. Yeah, he was old then.
Wow.
So I can't believe he's still playing. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that's like old that I have seen perform. Jeez, man. I mean, you got to. I saw, but that was like they weren't that old then. I saw Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. I did go to that.
Oh wow, that's
when
really cool.
They played with the St. Louis Symphony actually.
Wow.
But I was in like high school then, so I mean they weren't that old, but they were old to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they were old to me when I was a kid.
Wow,
and that was when I was in high school.
I wish I could have seen like members of Zeppelin play together. That would have been cool. My dad saw Led Zeppelin in 1973, around the same time that they recorded The Song Remains the Same live album. He saw them in Boston. Maybe it was like a week before that album was recorded. That's That's probably close to peak Zeppelin, 1973. That's pretty awesome, yeah. But
no, that would have been amazing,
man,
for sure.
I know, it's crazy.
And they were great when I saw them. I saw it was the Page and Plant tour
that was like in the 80s, right? Page and Plant, right? Or
it would have
90s
been
even.
Yeah, it would have been mid-90s.
Okay, I just looked. They were active 94 to 98 when they did their shows together. That's awesome. I mean, how cool would it be if they, they're old as hell
I think those are probably. I guess it's probably Bob Dylan. Honestly,
yeah.
How old is Barry Manilow? I took my mom to see Barry Manilow because she loves Barry Manilow.
Is
how
81
old is he?
years old. 81.
Well, damn. I mean, that wasn't
81.
that long ago. I mean, it's probably I don't know 6-7 years ago. I probably saw him. My mom loved Barry Manilow, so I took her to go see him.
And soon enough, in a couple months, I'll be seeing David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, their guitarist. He'll be performing 3 shows at the Hollywood Bowl and then playing 1 show at Intuit Dome. I'm seeing him at Intuit Dome, and I'll likely go to one of the Hollywood Bowl shows too because I love Pink Floyd so much. I'll probably be in the audience alone, crying, thinking about my dad, all the shows we saw together, and Pink Floyd music. So it'll just feel good to be there listening to David Gilmour really one last time. Because 78 years old, he hasn't toured in like 10 years. He'll probably never tour again. Gilmour's a legend, man. And I hope Paul McCartney tours, again sometime soon. Because I saw Paul McCartney in 2009. He's 82 years old now, and he still sounds great live.
Yeah,
he still puts on awesome shows. His band is incredible. But if Paul McCartney tours again, I will be there. Like, I will go see Sir Paul McCartney because those shows are amazing. And talk about legends, like that's somebody you don't want to miss. Paul McCartney.
Yes. I will tell you that Bob Dylan show I went to, it was Bob Dylan, Wilco, and My Morning Jacket.
Wow, what a combo. I would love to go to that show.
And I think that My Morning Jacket made the biggest impression on me. They were unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah, they're a great band. I've never seen My Morning Jacket, but I saw Jim James, their lead singer guitarist.
Yep.
He performed independently at some small venue in Boston years ago, and he was terrific. And Wilco, Wilco's a band I haven't explored deeply, but their song Impossible Germany, I think that whole album, I forget what it's called, Sky Blue Sky, it's like late 2000s. That whole album is great. But I've been like slowly working my way through Wilco's discography because I like a lot of their stuff. But, Impossible Germany's one that pops up first in my mind.
Gotcha.
Great guitars.
Oh, Tweety.
So good.
All right, what you got?
Let's see. Let's start off with a non-basketball question, just to keep it going. It could be a basketball question from Grace. Are there any interviews either of you have conducted in the past that you wish you could do over again?
Oh. When I was very young, I got the crazy. You're gonna be amazed that this happened, but this is true. I had John Wooden on my radio show.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I would love to be able to do it now.
Wow.
Now that I'm older, I was under 25 for sure. I was probably 23 years old or something like that. But it was, back in the day, there was early 2000s, sports talk radio had blown up, and you could get on these lists for everybody that had any kind of a book or promotion coming out. It would always go out to like radio stations. And so I had unbelievable producers, and these producers would get on all of these lists. This happened with my producer that I still have to this day. And we would get on all these lists, and you would just never believe the amount of people that you could get on to sports talk radio shows because they were promoting something, right? So you could, you would get Joe Montana on because he was talking about high blood pressure, promoting something, or you could get, I remember we had like John McCain on the show. We had like just all these, anybody that came out with a book, anybody that came out, and it could be a political figure, it could be a comedian, it could be anybody. And books were a huge deal. So anybody that had a book, if you could get on their radio tour, they would send it out. They would say, hey, they're doing a slot for this. And so Wooden was part of this book and did this radio tour, and we got a slot in the radio tour, and he came on with me. And I could probably find the tape somewhere around my house because I've got most of that old stuff on CDs or some kind of hard drive somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to do that as like an actual adult. I don't even remember the questions I asked. I don't remember, but I would. Yeah, I mean, because that's, to me, that was like, I mean, he's well regarded as, if not the greatest coach ever in any sport. He's certainly on a short list of that. And incredibly wise. He was old, obviously, at the time. But yeah, man, if I could go back as an adult and talk to somebody like that, because that's an interview that I did do, but I don't remember it like I should remember it. And in fact, I should go find that somewhere and see what I asked him. I don't even remember what I asked him.
Maybe it'll be better than you remember. Maybe it will be. Maybe.
I mean, I remember, God, I remember being absolutely just, that was like, I don't know if I've ever had anybody where I was legitimately super nervous.
Yeah.
But I remember preparing for that like crazy.
Sometimes you can be over-prepared, right?
Just to not screw it up. You know what I mean?
Especially somebody like him. Yeah. There's this statue of John Wooden on the UCLA campus. Sometimes I go for walks through the campus. It's like a beautiful green campus. It's gorgeous. Like, I don't see how you see tours of students like going to visit the campus. I don't see how you couldn't go to UCLA when you tour that campus. It's so beautiful. It's like the best park in LA. But there's a statue with a quote from John Wooden near the pavilion of their arena. And it says, "Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable." I think that's a very good quote. I think it's relevant to what you said. You're young in your career. You're doing your best. You wish you could do it again. Similar for me, like really with any interview that I did earlier in my career. Like, I think about my first year with The Ringer. I did a story on the Celtics. I interviewed Danny Ainge and Wick Grossbeck. And, I think it was an okay interview, but like, I wish I could do that one again for that time and have be better prepared like I am and have a better rhythm that I do now when it comes to interviewing players or whatnot. Because at that time, it's like there's nerves. You might be over prepared. You're not as good at delivering questions. And, you learn a lot over the years, but I think maybe I will do that one again. Maybe I'll get Danny, now that he's with the Utah Jazz, and do something Danny Ainge related in the coming years.
Yeah. I also think, and it was crazy because it hit me a lot. I told you, like, where my studio is now for my local show was Jerry West's old office, and I covered all of those teams, and I was around him a lot. I was so young. I was so intimidated. That it was.
How could you not be intimidated by Jerry West?
But it was not like you know what I'm saying? It was more like yes, I asked questions, but I didn't. I was too scared to like. I felt like I was a nobody, to him, and I just went and you know what I mean? Like you look now, and he would have known who I was, but it wouldn't like. I was so young and I was so intimidated, and it wasn't like some kind of mutual relationship where I could talk to him. It was me asking questions at, press conferences and that kind of stuff and being around. But I think that it would be a different world now, right? Than when I was in my, early 20s, I think.
Let's do a couple more. From Michael. He went to opening night of Childish Gambino's concert tour, and he highly recommends that the both of us go. His question is, do you guys listen to your own episodes? As someone who doesn't like to listen to their own voice, I wonder if that ever goes away. I would say sometimes I listen back. Usually I listen back on 2 times speed. I used to hate the sound of my own voice, even before the days of podcasting. I never liked hearing my voice back, but at this point, it's my voice. I embrace my voice. I don't really, think about it. But if I listen back, it's more like just trying to get a feel for what the conversation was. And, sometimes it's about like scouting your own conversation. But, I don't think about the sound of my own voice anymore, other than like I'm just used to it and I know that's my voice.
Yeah, I really don't.
Yeah. Did you ever at one point, like early in your career, like think,
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But
you
I was
just get used to it,
hypercritical.
Right?
Yeah, and it wasn't really about my voice as much as it was tendencies, things that I said a lot. Yeah, I mean, obviously I hear clips that people send back to us. That happens frequently. Virtually every episode, somebody will clip out something and send it to me. But yeah, I don't usually, if somebody clips something out, then maybe I'll go and try to listen back and try to understand what the full context was. But yeah, I don't. I did when I was young, for sure. And I was hypercritical of it. But now,
which isn't a bad thing. It's not bad to be hypercritical. That's sometimes how improvement happens. You need either, a trusted person to be, to offer constructive criticism of you, or you need to do it yourself, or both.
Yeah.
I think that's important to be critical.
And I think now, I listen to other people.
Yeah, usually. Yeah,
I don't listen back to myself. I mean, I was part of the show. I remember it.
I know. Yeah, it's not often I listen back.
I'm not. I mean, I'm not spending a lot of time judging myself on these episodes. Maybe I should. But I mean,
let's do a last question from Chris. This is an interesting one. Says he's a longtime listener, loves the show. He's 38 years old. He said, grew up in the Jordan era. He was a decent basketball player as a kid, but never got the chance to fully explore his potential. And he says, a psychic friend of ours said that one of our sons will grow to 7 feet tall. If that's true, I want to have him in an environment where he can have access to unlock his potential. Anywhere is better than here in New Zealand. That's where they live right now. My question to you is, which state would you recommend to live in for overall quality of life and basketball skills development? Living near the coast would be a bonus, but this wouldn't be as important. 2 states we are looking at are Florida and Texas. And he also says if he ever comes to the States, if he ever goes to a Mismatch live show, he'll bring a New Zealand flag and we'll be waving it in the back of the crowd. That's from Chris. So his psychic friend says one of his sons will grow to 7 feet tall, and he wants to be prepared to help facilitate his son's development. Where would you recommend besides Memphis, Tennessee? I think Florida, if it's really about development, because they have some good schools down there.
IMG?
IMG Academy, but I think I think for someone from New Zealand, you probably want good weather too, which is why he mentions the coast. California, if he doesn't mind high taxes. Florida.
Yeah, Texas and Florida, you got no state income tax.
Florida, if you don't mind humidity. I hate humidity. I couldn't do Florida. Texas, I could do. I could live in Texas, I think. But even though it's so freaking hot in the summer. But Southern California.
Developing a 7-footer, huh?
Who's not 7 feet tall yet either.
And also, why can't they develop a 7-footer in New Zealand?
I know, exactly. I think
fine. I don't think you have to move to. I don't think you have to move to the United States to make that happen. I don't think so either.
Right? NBA is a global game. You just sent in a question. If your son grows to 7 feet and he's a top prospect, just hit us with another question.
I actually think you're better off staying in New Zealand.
I agree.
Because then there's next thing you know, you're like the number 1 pick in the draft because you didn't go and play American basketball, right? Because if Risha or Sar aren't any good, you can credit the fact that they played somewhere else, right? Like, it's almost like the unknown. Let him go just destroy everybody in New Zealand.
I agree.
Send him over, right?
And unless the family, he didn't mention this in the email, but unless the family is considering a move to the U.S. anyway, for other reasons.
Yeah. Then.
But you shouldn't move to the U.S. just because your psychic friend said that one of your sons is going to end up being so. That can't be the only reason.
It'd be your luck you moved over here. The kid turns out to be 5'9". Now what?
Meanwhile, you're giving up.
Now what?
Your whole life back home.
Yeah, right. Also, who believes psychic friends?
I don't know. Do you have any?
Who has
friends?
A psychic friend? I would never.
Do you have any friends who are psychic at all?
What are you talking about?
No, I'm just asking the question. Do you
Absolutely not. No. And if I did, no. That's ridiculous. But I don't want to. Look, this guy's a fan. He's going to bring a New Zealand flag to one of our shows if he ever gets to come to one. But that's ridiculous. I would get so annoyed with a psychic friend. I wouldn't. No. I could not hang out with a guy that says he knows the future. I couldn't do it.
What if
Unless he was right about everything?
Yeah, exactly. What if this friend was right about stuff in the past? What if this friend told you to buy Nvidia stock?
This guy needs to tell me who to gamble on. Then
yes,
that's where my psychic friend would actually help me in my life.
Yes, that's where you find out if there's proof that this guy actually knows his stuff.
Yeah. So ask him. In fact, email us. Who does he say is going to win the title next year? Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Who's going to win the election? Who's going to win this? Who's going to win the Oscars?
Right.
Who's going to win all of this stuff?
Yeah, not that your kid's going to be 7 feet tall. This guy just wants to be your friend. He's just saying awesome stuff, right? Yeah. Like you wouldn't even like put any weight into it whatsoever unless he said something awesome. Right?
I would love some more context from Chris. If this psychic friend has been right about things in the past.
Psychic friend? Who? I've never even heard of that. I have this psychic friend. No, you don't.
We'll find out. Maybe we'll get some more details next episode.
This guy's just the town drunk. That's what he is. Hey, your kid's gonna be 7 foot tall. Really? Yeah,
kid's looking tall for his age.
Yeah, I'm psychic. All right. Well, you can send in more questions to us at nbamailbag@gmail.com, nbamailbag@gmail.com. Thank you to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez, as always. And Kevin, I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good week.